Welcome back to another installment of Ask Eddie and Ann. We're catching up here this week, Ann, because we missed an installment due to various reasons, but now we're back in the saddle. In fact, I was so eager to do this, Ann, that as you know, I was 2 hours early for our appointed recording session, and I instilled a little panic in you, I think.
Yeah, I was dealing with an electrical problem at work. So it was an odd moment for me.
And I have to say, today was a very special day because I actually got to see you in person for the first time in like the COVID era.
Yeah.
Because I had a piece of equipment that I needed to drop off to you, and saw you on the street in San Francisco, and we made the exchange. And it was nice to see you in the flesh instead of on a computer screen. It all too briefly, but it was very nice.
Yeah, so it's been nice to slowly see more and more people in person. I'm liking
Oh,
it.
yeah. Well, since the last time we spoke, I think I've done 2 festivals.
Yeah, you did.
The one in Washington, well, in Silver Spring, Maryland. We call it Noir City, D.C., but it's actually in Silver Spring. At the AFI, which was a great success. And it was great seeing so many people. And that was like the first step back into, as I say, re-entering Earth's atmosphere after all this time. That was good. And then I went down to Palm Springs to do Alan Rohde's, the Arthur Lyons Film Noir Festival in Palm Springs. And, that was terrific as well. So it is gradually, it seems like we're getting back to what will be normal, what will be the new normal.
Yeah, and it was really nice because a lot of people who went to the festival in DC and they tagged, their tweets and stuff with hashtag NorCityDC, which was nice because then I could share them on the account and everybody could see the pictures and stuff. So I wanted to give everybody a thank you that posted photos and did that because it was really nice to share them, especially since I didn't get to be there. So that's cool for me.
But I will say, in both of those festivals, it was wonderful to meet so many people who are regular viewers of this, whatever this is that we do. I mean, I guess we'll call it a program, the program.
Yeah.
Because so many people say, "Oh, please say hello to Ann for me," because we are, we watch religiously on Thursday nights, and it's great, and we enjoy it so much. It was very, very gratifying because when we started doing this, it was a thing to do. We really didn't have any idea how many people were going to watch it or anything. But if it was only those people who said hello to me and said how much they enjoyed watching it, that would be enough. But I suspect there's quite a few more out there.
Yeah.
So it's good.
Yeah,
Charlotte has her own fan club.
Yeah. She does. She gets quite a few comments in the comments on the Facebook page and Twitter.
Maybe we shouldn't let her hear that. She'll get a big head and want a pay raise or something. So
yeah.
Okay, shall we get going with this week's round of questions?
Absolutely.
Who's going to start off?
I will start.
Okay.
And this is from David Michael from Bainbridge Island. The Film Noir Foundation sponsored a recent restoration of Repeat Performance. I think it was to be released on Blu-ray disc, possibly through Flickr Alley, but I've never seen it offered for sale. What is the current status?
The current status is that will be available at the end of January. We are finalizing the special features right now, which are fantastic. It will have quite a few special features, in fact. So that's great. And I'm going to be showing the film on TCM on Noir Alley as the New Year's Day film. And I couldn't be more excited about finally getting this thing out. I won't go into all the details as to why it's taken a while, but I'm glad it has because we've been able to put together a really stellar package for this. Speaking of which, impromptu plug, this came in the mail today.
Yay!
So these are brand new from, I never know how to do this on screen. Like, oh, there we go.
Perfect.
Los Tais Amargos and La Bestia Debe Morir, The Beast Must Die, and The Bitter Stems in deluxe dual Blu-ray DVD packages from our pals at Flickr Alley with all these special features that we have done. It's really terrific. I love this because what's really cool is that it has this 24-page booklet that I put together with Michael Cronenberg. God, I got to get better about doing this. The mirroring, and as you can see, two discs. And then what's really cool is this comes out and you can switch it. Hang on. Well, I'll just show. Bad. It also has a flipped thing so you can put an alternate cover on it that is the original Spanish language poster for the film. So the cover for this product is reversible. So what you just saw is now Los Tais Amargos and the Spanish language poster. So I'm very excited about those. I haven't even popped them in the player yet to give a look. I know that the restorations are fabulous, but I couldn't be happier about that. So there. Thank you for the chance to give that plug. David Michael and Bainbridge Island, which is gorgeous. I have been to Bainbridge Island. I've been to the beautiful, the art gallery up there is sensational. And I've actually done a film presentation on Bainbridge Island. I showed Chinatown.
Nice.
Just so you know. Okay, so thanks for that. This comes from Carl with a K. One of the striking things about every Noir City issue is how visually compelling it is. As someone who may someday work up the courage to submit an article, I am curious about the process of selecting stills to accompany the articles. Do the authors do that, or is there a magician in Noir City who, when reading a new submittal, says, "Have we got the perfect still for you?" That is Carl's question. Anne, do you want to talk about our magician, or do you want me to handle
I think you
that?
should talk about a magician.
Okay, the magician goes by the name of Michael Cronenberg, and I can't remember how many years ago now, Michael actually contacted me out of the blue and said, "I'm your new art director for the magazine. You may not know this yet, but I am the new art director." And I sent him an article on that I had written on the several versions of To Have and Have Not. And I said, well, lay this out and we'll see what you can do. And I'm not joking, like within probably 40 minutes, he sent me a completed article that he had done all the photo research and everything for, and it was spectacular. So Michael definitely got the job, and he is the magician. And when I had a more direct hands-on role at the magazine, because Michael is the art director and now Vince Keenan is the editor-in-chief, I just sort of am the publisher. I read everything and, have sort of editorial oversight. But I used to work very, very closely with Michael in choosing the imagery, but now he pretty much does it all himself. And he is, he's a genius in that regard. He finds stuff that I've never found, anywhere in any archive or anything. I don't know exactly how he does it, but he does it. So Carl, work up the courage to submit something, because it'll look great when it's all said and done.
Yeah, and also on our filmnoirfoundation.org website, there is a page for the magazine, and you can just click a link, and that will send the an email to the editor. And there's in that article about submitting something, and it has the details of what you need to do to submit an article. So if anyone's interested in submitting an article, there is a process. So you can go to filmnoirfoundation.org. Right.
And I mean, this is a pretty pro operation at this point. So, I mean, a query letter is a good idea, and all, it's professional. Don't send an email saying, "Hey dude, I got an idea for an article about the Maltese Falcon. Call me."
Yeah.
that is not going to happen. So yes,
Yeah. So
follow,
like I said,
follow
on
the
the page,
protocols.
right, and they are laid out on the page along with the click for the email, so you can read through that first.
Very good.
Okay.
Thank you, Carl, for recognizing Michael's incredible talents.
Yeah, and his covers for the annual are beautiful. I love those.
I don't know how he does it because we are one of many publications that he works for,
Yeah.
and you know, I enjoy collaborating with workaholics. Let's just put it that way.
It's nice in a way. Okay, so let's see. This is from Robert. In TCM promos, you take a moment to openly ask and answer that Casablanca is not a noir. I agree, but am hung-string to explain why. Your thoughts, please, on why Casablanca is not a film noir. By the way, after watching TCM's recent promo about what movie scenes make your host cry, I realize I always tear up when that tipsy young lady at Rick's bar joins the band. Yeah, which makes me cry. She's a prostitute.
Yes. That's great. The Marseille. Yeah, that's it's not a film noir because, in my estimation, because the villains are just the Nazis. I mean, that's it. I mean, it's just the garden variety, villains clearly. Yeah. But everybody else in the movie is a good guy.
Yeah.
So the quandary in the film is that Ilsa has to choose between two good guys.
Yeah.
Right. Which isn't very noir.
Yeah.
Right. And so, I mean, visually it kind of looks like a noir, but that is truly a romantic melodrama. That is almost the definition of a romantic melodrama. And if Victor Laszlo was really in secret a Nazi collaborator, maybe then it might start approaching noir. But there are just too many well-intentioned good people as the lead characters in that movie, all battling against this evil force, of the Nazis. So that's why I don't really think it qualifies as a film noir. Okay, here are two questions from David. Where are the angels with dirty faces? I guess he's asking if it's noir or pre-noir or noir adjacent, he says. Also, would you both please comment on Michael Curtiz as a noir director? Oh boy, do you know of critical literature on Curtiz as a director of noir, or is it all hidden behind a torn Curtiz curtain? I love how our people, when they submit questions to us, they get in the noir spirit. It's good. Okay. Well, who wants to go? You go, Ann. Because what's your take on Michael Curtiz? He asked about Angels with Dirty Faces. What is your take on that?
I mean, Angels with Dirty Faces, I consider a gangster film, straight out. That's my view on it.
To me, that's like the final Warner Brothers gangster film. And it has such a great ending that it feels like the end of an era with that movie, with Rocky Sullivan, meeting his maker at the end of that film. But I'm Alan Rohde in Palm Springs kind of wrested the film out of Warner Brothers because it hasn't really been seen lately. In fact, a lot of people have been wondering why it's never shown anymore on TCM. There's some kind of complication with the broadcast rights of it, but Alan just showed it in Palm Springs, and it was very, very well attended, probably the best attended screening of the festival, I think, because so many people wanted to see it again on a big screen. And on the subject of Alan Rohde, he has written. If I wasn't wired up, I'd get out of my chair and go get it, right? Because it's right over there. He has written. I would say the definitive biography of Michael Curtiz, but it's also the only biography of Michael Curtiz. And it is both of those things, the only one and the definitive one, because nobody's going to do a bigger, better job on this than Alan did. And that is, it looks at Curtiz's entire career, not just his noir work. That obviously comprises a section of the book, because in the 1940s that was largely what Curtiz was doing at Warner Brothers, and then as his own entity as an independent producer. I think he's fantastic. What's your favorite Michael Curtiz film? And don't think wasn't aware that you grouped these questions, because it's a Curtiz question following a Casablanca question. I got
did
that.
group it that way. Yeah. My favorite film of his, or my favorite noir of his?
Both.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a pretty big, because, well, I think I probably say Mildred Pierce. Joan's performance out is so amazing that it's really, for me, it just has to be the number one. But at TCM Film Festival several years ago, they showed a Western that he directed with Alan Ladd called The Southerner. I think it's called The Southerner. And it was like, wow. I mean, I kind of just went because I thought, oh, Michael Curtiz doing a Western, that'll be interesting.
Is that The Southerner? Are you sure that's the title?
No,
or is it?
I don't think that's the title.
Is it The Proud Rebel?
It's The Proud Rebel.
Proud Rebel.
Thank you.
Okay.
It's The Proud Rebel.
The Southerner is Zachary Scott.
Yeah, that's a different thing. Yeah, no, and it's just incredible. I mean, Alan Ladd's performance is amazing. It's beautifully shot. I mean, it's just a gorgeous looking film, and I was so caught up in the story. So I think that's actually probably my favorite film of his. And it just came out. Like, I'd never heard of it until I saw it at the festival, and it was just like, and it's a great, also kind of father-son story too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes, and I believe I introduced that film at the festival, and I think I believe I was with David Ladd, Alan Ladd's son.
Yeah,
introduced the film with me. I realize I'm not that memorable when I do these things, and I get that.
I was so blown away with the film, I forgot about it.
Well, but I may not have, because sometimes TCM shows the films twice, and I don't introduce both of them. It may have been that I introduced it once, and then it was so popular they showed it, because they leave encore performances of films that were really popular. They leave a bunch of time for those on Sunday. So that may have been, not that you needed to mention me or anything, but anyway, that is a really, really good film. I would say that my favorite, and I just kind of leave Casablanca out of it, because I mean, it's so great. It's almost beyond. It's like talking about Citizen Kane or something,
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there's Casablanca, but then I would say The Breaking Point with John Garfield is my favorite. Certainly my favorite of his noir films, and maybe my favorite of all of the Curtiz directed films. I just think it's so beautifully made. And Garfield gives such a great performance in that film, and I love that movie. So that would be my fave.
And it has
Mildred Pierce, of course, is fantastic.
And I would also say about Breaking Point is that has probably the most heartbreaking final scene of almost any movie I've seen. It just, that end shot just broke my freaking heart.
It is without question the most heartbreaking final shot I've ever seen in a movie, and the whole final scene is pretty dramatic, but it's that gut punch that they save for the very end, which, let's face it, a lot. I would love to research that and find out who thought of that, because is that written in the script? Did Garfield think of that? Did Curtiz just brilliantly think, like, let's add this one last little bit to what was clearly a fairly typical last shot of a movie, that goes to the crane shot and it pulls up from the wharf. but that I'm not going to say what it is because I
Yeah.
don't want to spoil it for people who haven't seen it. But it's devastating. It's absolutely devastating. So it's a little stroke of genius, and I'd love to know exactly who was responsible for it, but we'll find out. Hell, maybe it's in Alan's book. I'm going to go back and
Yeah.
reread the chapter on the breaking point. I'm sure if anybody could figure out who did that, it would be Alan. So, okay, your turn.
Let's see. Just watched I Wake Up Screaming, starring Carol Landis and Betty Grable. I don't recall Carol Landis in any other film noirs. Did she make any more? And that's from our friend Bob in the UK.
Well, interesting, Bob, in the UK, because the film that I know of that Carol Landis made was in the UK. It's called The Noose. And, it was one of those quota pictures where Americans were making these movies in Britain. And I think Joseph Kalea is in it as well. And I can't remember who the main British actor is, but I've seen it and it is very, very good. And of course, she had a notorious love affair with Rex Harrison that led to her suicide. She was only 29 years old, and because Rex Harrison wouldn't leave his wife, she killed herself, and that's why you don't see Carol Landis in too many movies after the 1940s. So a very tragic noir ending. But that's the only one that I'm aware of. Have you ever seen her in anything else?
Not a noir, I don't think so.
No, I think that was it. I mean, obviously she was in 1 Million BC. That's kind of the movie that made her a star because she had what it took to fill out a loincloth, and Daryl Zanuck was quite fond of her. And she may have gone to England to get away from Daryl Zanuck. So I know it's sad, but I don't mean to laugh about it, but she was a really interesting character. She also did a lot of morale boosting during World War II, and and wrote a book about it. Four Jills in a Jeep, which they ended up turning into a movie that she starred in. And so she had a very full and eventful short life. But those are the only noirs that I'm aware of, Bob. Okay. With the opening of the new Academy Museum of Film, do you know of any good noir-related exhibits and points of interest at the museum? Says Robin. Well, I don't suppose you've been there yet, Anne.
No, I have not.
And honestly, even though I attended the opening, I kind of didn't really see the museum. That's one of the problems with me going to film-related things in LA these days is I know so many people that I spent like 3.5 hours just talking to people I hadn't seen during COVID, and I kind of didn't see the museum. But I have many good friends that work at the Academy. And of course, my colleague at TCM, Jacqueline Stewart, is now she is the creative director of the museum. And don't think that I am not going to lean on Jacqueline to do at some point a noir-oriented exhibit that who knows what we could do in a noir-related exhibit, but I know that I have a storage unit filled with movie posters that are waiting to be displayed somewhere. So it would be nice if we could do that. There is ample wall space in that museum, I can tell you that much. So that would be kind of fun. But that's it. That's all. I'm sure that they have. I will say one thing though about the museum, because if people read articles about the opening, and there were so many articles that were critical of the museum trying so hard to be politically correct in this environment, and people need to understand that a museum is an organic thing. It's not a hall of fame. It's a museum, right? And it changes. Exhibits rotate and change, and it's constantly evolving. So it was important to get off on the right foot and make everybody feel like they were included in the story of Hollywood. And as time goes on, I think you're going to see, so people who are complaining, well, it didn't have this and it didn't have that, and this was represented, but that's absurd because that's a tiny little iota of Hollywood history where they didn't do a whole thing on whatever. And it's like, it's been open a month.
Yeah.
Chill out, people. I mean, a museum with that much support and backing is going to evolve. And I'm sure over time they will get around to everybody's favorite aspect of film history.
Okay. My gosh. Okay, this is from Dennis. Any love for The Big Combo? Seems to be a film that isn't as widely discussed, yet a prime example of noir. Several noir legends in the film: Don Levy, Richard Connie, Cornel Wilde, Ted de Corsica, with wonderful John Alton cinematography. Interestingly, also one of the few classic noirs that truly has a jazzy score.
Yeah, David Raxon with the score. Yeah, I like The Big Combo very much. I write about it at some length in Dark City. And do you like this film?
Oh yeah. It's really funny because how should I put this? So there is a scene where Connie persuades his girlfriend to stay with him.
Gene Wallace,
yeah. And so it's the same. And like the first time someone kind of said to me, "Oh yeah, you can." I don't know. I don't know how to say this.
I'm enjoying this, Anne. I know where you're going, and so I'm enjoying the struggle you're having with it.
That he performs oral sex on her. Okay, there we go.
That's about as blunt as you could be with that.
And I was like, oh, this is ridiculous. People just read into things. So like I'm watching the film, and John Alton is a genius. So it's really hilarious. So like he's like standing behind her, he's like being persuasive, and then the camera like kind of stays like here on her, and then you see him like he like drops out of the frame, and they just like pan up to her face. And I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, how did they get that past the critics? And then I realized very sadly that the censors, that very sadly, especially for their wives, the censors may not have understood what was going on.
Yes, indeed. And that's not the only bit of deviance in that movie.
No, we got Lee Van Cleef.
I mean, I don't mean to call it deviance. Perhaps I shouldn't say that. But the hitmen are clearly gay. Yeah. Earl Holliman and Lee Van Cleef. And it's funny because I always, when I say this stuff, there are a lot of people who don't believe it.
Yeah.
Because they don't believe that these things like existed back in, I guess, the good old days or something. So I always hear from people saying, oh, don't be ridiculous. Like this person who was, you said, how could they possibly do that? Well, I remember interviewing Earl Holliman and pointing out and then you played a gay hitman in The Big Combo with Lee Van Cleef. And he was like, you picked up on that? And I'm like, well, yeah, it's fairly obvious what's going on. And he was so tickled by that it like read on screen and it like got through because he said, yeah, Lee and I were like, let's do this, let's just do this. And I don't really think that any of that stuff was in the script.
Yeah. I
think they started shooting that film, which is a bargain basement movie. Yeah. I mean, that is so low budget. Cornel Wilde was really the force behind that movie. He was becoming a producer at that time, and Joseph Lewis was close to the end of his directing career. I mean, he was going to have his feature film directing career, and I think at a certain point they just realized there wasn't a lot of money, because when you watch that film, and I'm not going to belabor this, but I did the audio commentary for, I think it was the Arrow release on Blu-ray, and so I watched the film really closely before I did the commentary, and it amazed me how few shots there are in that movie. How Joe Louis was just like, we're going to do this in a single take.
Yeah.
We're just going to do this in a single take. And sometimes it was genius, and sometimes it felt like he was bored.
Yeah.
Like I'm just going to set the camera here, and it's like a static shot that just goes on for like 3-4 minutes. But because the camera's not moving, nobody's saying it's an extraordinary long take, you know, because nothing's really happening. It's like a long establishing shot. But I think that at a certain point, the actors started to really take over and just say, we're going to do this, you know, and like, I think Richard Conte and Gene, and you know, it was Cornell Wilde did not appreciate that scene because he was married to Gene Wallace, and Conte does this thing, and Cornell Wilde was like, wait a second, what's that all about? You know, and then the whole thing with Holloman and Van Cleef, and there's just a lot of business in that film that's really, really interesting. Like Brian Donlevy with the hearing aid that he takes out when he gets killed. You know, he says so it's weird. It's a really, really cheap movie made really fast, but with a lot of really creative and clever ideas in it. And the script is really pretty good. Richard Conte, that's one of the best roles for Richard Conte. That's his ultimate gangster role.
Yeah, he's great in it. And you also get to see Lee Van Cleef shirtless. So that's another good thing.
That's a plus. Because there is a scene, it's very brief, but there's a scene where I think Earl Holliman is sitting on the bed and he's wearing striped pajama top, and Lee Van Cleef is walking around wearing the striped pajama bottom, and he's shirtless, you know, and it's like, put two and two together there, you know. Yeah. There's more that I could say about that one, but I think that's enough on that. Okay. Okay. A comment and a two-part question. The comment, Armed Forces. This is a good one. The third Elvis Costello album is the musical equivalent of the best film noir for its numerous femme fatales, angst, and beautifully twisted wordplay. Well, that is the Elvis Costello signature, right? And if there was ever a homage to film noir, it would have to be the song Watching the Detectives, which is from an earlier album, right? That's from My Aim is True, which is all about a woman watching a film noir. Okay. Did I miss something, or is that?
My questions.
Oh, okay. Well, I love wait, I want to address this first one. That's just a comment.
Yeah.
Okay. Because Elvis Costello is a huge film noir fan. And in fact, when I saw him, and this is not the first time, but he did, when he does Watching the Detectives in concert, the backdrop turns into a whole montage of film noir movie posters. Those are all mine. Those are all from the book, The Art of Noir. And you know, that's where he got them all. It's like, so that's pretty cool. And yes, Watching the Detectives is a great song, but I agree with Rick that all those Elvis Costello albums have noir songs in them. Motel Matches is one of my favorite noir songs, giving you away just like Motel Matches. You know, that's always the clue that does them in at the end, you know. All fantastic. Yes, I'm a huge Elvis Costello fan, as I could tell you are as well, Ann.
Yeah, and I'm in the process of creating the playlist for my company's holiday party, and that song is on that playlist.
Watching the detectives.
Watching the detectives, yeah.
Fantastic, fantastic. But his wordplay is an inspiration.
Yeah.
I love his songwriting. He and Tom Waits are probably the two. Well, there's a lot of noirish songwriters, but as a writer, I really, really love their storytelling skills. Their ability to tell short stories musically is absolutely fantastic. Okay, my questions. In Phantom Lady, who is the actual drummer in the scene where Elijah Cook Jr. is jamming with the others? Do you know the answer to that?
Betty Rich? I don't know.
It is Buddy Rich. That is correct. Good job. Good. At least that's what I have been informed. That's what I believe. I mean, and I have all these jazz noir books, and I recall reading that was Buddy Rich on the sticks. And second, any idea if Rob Reiner got his inspiration for the series of exploding drummers in Spinal Tap from that scene? No. I doubt that. I think he got his inspiration from Keith Moon. Yeah. Is where he got his inspiration. But just imagining, like, if Keith dialed it up just one more notch. So, but that's good. Rick is clearly a music fan. I appreciate that.
This is from Michael in Post Falls, Idaho. Two unrelated questions. I'm currently reading Phantom Lady, Christina Lane's biography of Joan Harrison. Before working with him on the movie Phantom Lady, Joan was aware of two thrillers Siodmak had directed, Fly By Night and Personal Column. Since he is Eddie's favorite noir director, I assume Eddie has seen both. What about the two films would have given Joan comfort that Siodmak was the right person to direct her first solo production?
I don't know that she saw the German film, Personal Column, Piège. I don't think. I'm not certain that she saw that. I'm certain that she saw Fly By Night, which he made as a B picture in 1942 at Paramount, and it was so similar to the 39 Steps, which she knew well because she had been Alfred Hitchcock's personal secretary and protege. That she recognized his ability to handle fast-moving set pieces and to balance the momentum, the mystery, the suspense with a bit of charm and lightheartedness at times. I think she just felt like this guy totally gets it, And Siodmak was not a big shot director at that point, and that was her first film as a producer, and she couldn't go to Universal and say, I want some established director. She had to find somebody right at the level Siodmak was at that precise moment. And the fact, I think, that they were both expats, that she was from England and he was from Germany, kind of brought them together. And I think they just had a shared sensibility for that kind of material. And it was a match, clearly made in heaven. And in some ways, I wish they had made more movies together. I wish Siodmak had directed Ride the Pink Horse instead of Robert Montgomery. That's Montgomery's best film by far. But I can only imagine what Robert Siodmak could have done with that. So anyway.
And then the second question, today I received an email listing the most watched films on the Criterion channel during September. Of the 24 films on the list, over half can be classified as noir or neo-noir. The success of Noir Alley and this summer's neo-noir series on TCM, it's obvious people love these types of movies. Given this viewing climate, how is the Film Noir Foundation doing with donations, considering you do not have the revenue resources of the Noir City showings to rely on?
Thanks for asking that question, Michael. We're doing okay. I mean, we're doing pretty good. We obviously took a hit by not having a Noir City Festival in the Bay Area in 2021, because that is the single biggest event that fills the coffers. But given that, it has been absolutely remarkable how many people have picked up the slack and donated. And I just want to give a shout out to Dana Delaney, because when
Yeah.
she appeared with me on Noir Alley, and because she has a lot of Twitter followers, and when she appeared and talked about writing that article for the Noir City magazine and holding up the magazine and giving that pitch for the foundation, I mean, that led to a very pronounced spike in donations and a huge number of sales for the print edition of the magazine on Amazon. But the donations are more important, because as much as we love the print edition of the magazine, the majority of that money goes to Amazon, not to the
we're
foundation.
not making money off that,
Right.
or not
And
much. Yeah.
we make money on it, but at this point, Amazon's the only game in town for turning around. You click a button and 2 days later, the magazine appears on your doorstep. In some cases, the next day, it appears on your doorstep. Right now, Amazon is the only outfit that can do that. I don't want to give them that money, but we really have no alternative if people want a print edition. But I thank Dana very much for that. But it's been good. I mean, I'm looking forward to getting back to live shows, because that's clearly not only does it help us in terms of the money made, but just in terms of the goodwill in getting the word out. And I've clearly seen, being on TCM makes a big difference. And so every time I'm able to show a Film Noir Foundation restoration on TCM, they're perfectly fine with me doing that. They love it, because virtually every film I've shown on TCM that's a Film Noir Foundation restoration has been a TCM premiere. That's just the way it is, right? Woman on the Run, TCM premiere. Too Late for Tears, TCM premiere. Repeat Performance, TCM premiere. Trapped, a TCM premiere. I'm not even mentioning the foreign language ones that we've done. So to be able to say that to people who watch TCM all the time, like, you've never seen this before, and if you want to see more stuff like this, you can donate to the foundation, has been a huge benefit to us.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest with you. When you told me you got the job with TCM, the first thing I thought was, oh, this is going to be so good for us. And then I was like, oh, this is good for Eddie too. I hope he's happy. And also, Ms. Delaney was extremely generous in the amount she tweeted out around the screenings she did with you, and when the article came out. So I'm really appreciative of that. People can still get the print edition off of Amazon. And we have digital back issues as well. And also, if you want to donate to the Film Noir Foundation, you can go to filmnoirfoundation.org, contribute. And we're really grateful if you do that. You can donate whatever you want, but if you donate at least $20 and you sign up on our email list, you have to sign up on the email list. We do send you a link to download the digital editions of the magazine as they come out for a year. So you get the current issue and then the next 3.
Okay, very, very good. Yeah, and Dana is real people. She's a star, and all this stuff, but she's just a really great person. So I love her to death. Okay, I need to start hustling through these, because I just realized I don't have my computer plugged in. So my battery is running down really fast. Okay, so here, I want to ask Eddie what he thought about the music in Human Desire. That was a film that Dana introduced with me on TCM. When Gloria Graham appears, they have a very sexy score running as soon as you see her. Also, when Glenn Ford is following Broderick Crawford on the train tracks, the music goes to a dangerous and ominous in one swift move. I Googled the composer. I can't remember who it is at the moment. He did monstrous movies. And as soon as you listen to that, all of the horror and intense stuff comes to mind. Kathy asks this question. I'm embarrassed to say I don't know who the composer is at the moment, and I'm gonna. Can you still see me, Ann? I never
I
know
can
how to
still
work
see you.
these things. Okay, good, because I'm
Yeah.
I'm googling it right now as I'm talking to see who the composer is, and I just one of the things that I'm going to say that I hope people aren't offended by is that you know, very often if it's not a top of the line composer like a Miklos Rosa or a Franz Waxman or something like that, a lot of times, oh, it's a Daniel Amfiteroff. You know, I think I'm pronouncing his name right. Um, a lot of times the music is recycled, and the composers are ramming these things through and just using the most rudimentary music cues. If it's not Max Steiner or Waxman or, you know, Roy Webb at RKO was good as well. But yeah, I mean, and there's something about that movie in particular that I think the producers got a little heavy-handed with the way they treated the Gloria Graham character and just how they turned what was, they treated it almost, as he points out, or not he, as Kathy points out, they treated it almost like a horror film. Uh, and the motivations of the characters. And what was very, very subtle when Jean Renoir made the film in France turned out to be very ham-handed when Fritz Lang did it in the United States. So it doesn't surprise me that the score reflects that.
Okay. No, wait, is it you or me? I've lost my mind.
No, it's you. You
It's
get
me.
to read this one.
Okay. I've heard you say in a few interviews that Joan Crawford was co-opted by the gay community, and that now she's being justly embraced by noir fans. My take is that among the subset of gay males who appreciate classic films, only about 10% of them treat her like a mommy dearest caricature, and the other 90% admire her films. Straight men were the most visible film noir critics and fans until the past 10 years or so, and now more women and gay men feel included and have visibility in the film noir community. I think for years, the most visible Joan Crawford fans were gay men and also many women. And now in the last 10 years, more straight men also feel more included in a Joan Crawford fandom and comfortable saying that they appreciate her too. Thanks for hearing me out. Would love to hear your thoughts.
Okay, that's and that's unsigned, so I don't know who sent that. But
I failed to write down the name of it, which is too bad because I really like that question.
it's a good question, and you know, I'm not sure where this person gets the idea, like the 10%, 90% thing. I try to stay away from percentages, but I will tell you that this observation was based on my history of programming Joan Crawford movies at the Castro Theater in San Francisco. Right? So when you put Joan Crawford in a gay mecca like the Castro district, I can guarantee you that the gay men in the audience, you know, were a large percentage, and that more than 10% of them saw Joan as a gay icon, right? And I will never forget the woman coming out in the lobby in tears saying to me, "Make them stop." I was showing Sudden Fear, saying, "Make them stop. They're ruining it because they were laughing at everything Joan did."
Yeah.
Right. And, you know, Sudden Fear is not really a funny movie.
Yeah.
But that was I agree with this person's assessment that Joan's reputation has changed, right? That a lot of people, because, you know, they did the Baby Jane movie, you know, where they had Susan Sarandon and Jessica Lange playing them and all that. But I'm not disagreeing with what this person says, but I'm just saying that My friend Mark Hustis did a Mildred Pierce night at the Castro Theater with Ann Blythe, and I interviewed her, and Ann totally got what was going on because they did a Joan Crawford drag contest, and then they had a drag queens and a pie eating contest, and this is a gay thing, right? And I'm okay with that, but I just think that I made it a point to sort of reclaim Joan from being exclusively that.
Yeah.
Right. So that's all. That's all I have to say about it, because I just think that that tended to overshadow the fact that Joan was a very, very powerful woman in Hollywood in the film noir era, and she was the shot caller. She picked the director. She did, and that was all after Mildred Pierce, of course. But um, she deserves recognition and acknowledgement for all that she accomplished. The third act wasn't a good one for her, but damn, Act Two was a revelation. And men get cut that slack all the time. So why would you not grant grant that to a woman? So that's all. That's my whole point about Joan.
Yeah, and I think that, but I do think that Joan is being taken more seriously by younger people, because I don't think that they have the familiarity, thank God, with Mommy Dearest. And that whole sort of portrayal of her. I think there has been a shift, which makes me happy, because I think Joan was, I think she's a really great actress. I mean, I think that scene in Sudden Fear when she's listening to the recording is basically her just reacting, no dialogue to that, because she did start in silent films, and she credited Lon Chaney Sr. with teaching her how to act for film, when she worked with him in The Unknown. So I'm glad to really say now more when I mention Joan Crawford or something, there's less and less of that immediate bringing up of Mommy Dearest and that stuff. So I do think it's shifted, and I'm really glad, because she was a great actress. And also, I mean, what she did behind the camera was able to do when she was at Warner's, she was always heartbroken about leaving MGM, but I think her best period of work was at Warner's. I think it was like
absolutely
ever happened to her.
Absolutely. Okay, Anne, here's what I'm going to have to do. I'm taking out my earpiece.
Okay.
I don't know. Maybe we'll edit this out. Maybe we won't. But I have to do this. I'm taking out the earpiece. I'm taking off the microphone. Not you. You don't have to. Okay. Because I have to go get the battery. So here we go.
Charlotte, you want to talk about Joan Crawford to everybody? Come on. Come say hello to everybody. You tell them what you think of Joan Crawford. Yeah? Should it just be the two of us? Should we just do our own show? Not let Eddie be with us anymore? Yeah? Is that what you want?
We might have to edit all this part out.
Okay. That's okay. That's why we do this ahead of time, so I can edit. I wish I had one of those little cards that said they used to have for technical difficulties on TV. The guy. Okay, we're back.
Now we're good.
Okay.
Let me put my microphone back on. And now my earpiece goes back in.
Charlotte likes the show better without you, just so you know.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, very good. What was it? Just so I know? I didn't hear that.
Oh, I said Charlotte says she likes the show better without you and that we don't need you.
Thanks, Charlotte. I'll bring Tizzy in to take my place, and she'll just sit here and sleep, and that'll be it. She might eat, who knows? But anyway, okay. Now okay. I'm relieved that everything is copacetic now. Yeah. Okay. Hey, Ron in Pittsburgh wants to know, Anne, is there a noir performance that is just so dreadful It stands out amongst all the others. Someone who's a total stiff or chewed the scenery or simply could not act. Do you have one in film noir?
You know, what's really weird is when I read this question, I was like, I know that I am overlooking stuff that I feel like something should be just popping into my head. But I couldn't think of something. But I know that as soon as you say something, I'm probably going to go, oh, yeah, yeah.
Well, I'm almost tempted to not say what it is because I'm showing it on TCM in December. And I don't say anything about it in the intro, but I certainly talk about it in the outro.
Okay.
And it is not a film that I should know the day I'm showing it so people will know, but you'll just have to watch every episode to see what it is. But there is one performance that has always grated on me. It's a female performance, and I just don't like it. And every time I see the movie, it's hard for me to watch the movie because all I want to do is say, oh, if only Gloria Graham had played this part. This would be like spectacular if Gloria Graham played this role. But anyway, that's it. So other than that, I don't really have one. I can't think of too many performers that I really like. I don't want to watch them, especially in a film noir, because I like most of the actors who were really synonymous with noir. I don't remember anybody giving a bad performance, right?
Yeah, and noir always seemed to also have like a lot of really great character actors too.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, same thing about that, who they would pick out of the studio roster to play the small parts in the films always seemed really fantastic too. I mean, it's not just that I usually enjoy the stars. I tend to really like the supporting characters that they get in for things. And sometimes those roles, like Somewhere in the Night,
yes,
when he's in the house with the kind of older senile lady, and that is like such an incredible scene because she gives such a good performance, and there's such like a rapport between her and the lead, and it just like the scene is like, it's almost shockingly good.
Yes, and it's funny you mentioned that film because I just showed it in Washington, and the supporting cast just dominates that movie. I mean, John Hodiak is, I don't think John Hodiak gives bad performances. He just doesn't give He doesn't give great performances.
Yeah.
He's not asked to do a whole lot in his movies. And but he does. But John Hodiak is. Let's say this: John Hodiak is not Dana Andrews. Because they play roles the same way, but Dana Andrews is able to give them a lot more depth.
Yeah.
Than John Hodiak does, but in Somewhere in the Night, it's the supporting cast. Fritz Kortner and Sheldon Leonard and Lloyd Nolan and Joyce McKenzie and all these, they're all so great in that film. And Hodiak and Nancy Guile, they're just kind of there.
Yeah.
They don't really register that much. So that's an interesting observation. Okay, your turn.
It's me, right? I've been reading McShane's Chandler biography, and a resemblance popped up into my head. I was thinking of how Chandler's relationship with Sissy, at least in age, and Sissy's his wife, in case people don't know, reminded me of Joe Gillis's with Norma Desmond, neediness on both sides. Did some of Wilder's familiarity with the Chandler menage creep into the movie script? Other film people I've asked don't see it. I can't imagine Wilder's cruel sense of irony finding material and what he heard about. Did he ever visit the Chandlers at home? And that's from Eric.
That's an interesting observation. One that I have not made before or heard before, but I wouldn't give it too much credence because, Billy Wilder did not like Raymond Chandler, even though, as I'm sure everybody watching this knows, they collaborated on the script for Double Indemnity. But I think that it's more, I am certain that Billy Wilder never visited Chandler at home because I don't really believe that Chandler had people at home. Nice. I think Charlotte, does that mean she agrees with me or she
Yep,
disagrees with me?
she agrees with you. She says he was
Well,
right. People are horrible.
Charlotte was probably good friends with Taki, who was Raymond Chandler's cat, his Persian cat, you know. Um, but I think that The Lost Weekend, about an alcoholic writer, was Billy Wilder's get back at Raymond Chandler,
Yeah.
trying to make Chandler see himself because Chandler was a closet drinker and he drank to excess at home, but tried to keep it together when he was on the studio lot, and and was sneaking his drinking around Wilder, who pounced on people's insecurities and their foibles and things, and that whole thing led to the antagonism between them. I don't know that how aware Wilder was of Chandler's private life, of his home life, or any of that stuff. I also don't think that, certainly, I don't think that Norma is in any way based on Sissy, uh, Sissy Pascal's character, because she was a very sophisticated woman, uh, and not in any way like Norma Desmond. So all that's really there is the age difference and the fact that Chandler and Wilder worked together, and I just think that the age difference has to do with Wilder wanting to do a film about old Hollywood colliding with new Hollywood. And so obviously there would be this age difference between a young, impressionable writer and the faded film star. And it's more about Wilder saying this is how Hollywood treats people when they no longer have use for them. You're a superstar one day and you're a joke. You're a subject of mockery, like Joan Crawford, right?
Yeah.
You're a subject of mockery, and you're only in middle age, right? I mean, Gloria Swanson was, she was 50 years old and they treat her like she's, Medusa and she, some monster. Anyway, that's, so it's an interesting observation, but I wouldn't put much stock in it, Eric.
Yeah, and I think too with and I think Wilder also, like that sequence where she has all the people coming in to massage her and going on the diet and stuff. He wound up really making a statement about how women are treated in Hollywood too. That idea that you reach a certain age and you're just like not worth anything anymore, And then also I was kind of thinking about, it really struck me because I didn't really think about, I've never thought about the film in these terms, but really, I mean, I think that Joe and Norma have a very codependent relationship. It's almost textbook codependent, actually.
Yeah.
And so I think too, the familiarity also may come from the fact that Sissy and Chandler had a codependent relationship because Chandler was an alcoholic, and that's what you have with an alcoholic.
Yeah.
So, and that may be why you're seeing a similarity, is because it's a codependent relationship.
Yes, I also don't really see any connection between Joe Gillis, and Raymond Chandler. I mean, they were very, very different in terms of age and attitude and all of that. They were very, very different people.
And they're also the different types. They're the opposite type in a codependent relationship. Chandler was the alcoholic and Joe was the caretaker.
Right.
So yeah.
Anyway, very, but very interesting. I mean, I love Sunset Boulevard. I absolutely love Sunset Boulevard, and people who don't see it as a film noir, I don't get why they don't see the film noir aspect of it. Well, anyway. I mean, I end my book Dark City with that movie because it's where the whole fantasy of film noir collides with the reality of Hollywood, you know,
Yeah.
and Norma is truly a femme fatale, but then Hollywood itself is the femme fatale, which is the same. Uh, it's the same theme that's in Mulholland Drive.
Yeah.
It's like that promise of something. You're going to get everything you ever wanted is here, and that's like the promise of the femme fatale, right? It's going to be beyond your imagining, things you always craved and never imagined you could have, and like you're going to pay the price for it. That's what those two movies are about.
Yeah,
Anyway.
and I think too, and that's the thing with the femme fatale, right? Is also those aren't the things that really matter ultimately, right? Fame and money or sex, or whatever that you think you're going to get from this isn't really going to actually fulfill you or satisfy you in any real way. It's always, an illusion.
Yeah, and illusion is what Hollywood sells.
Yeah.
So that's the whole point, But I do love in Sunset Boulevard, I do love the fact that by the end, despite everything that happens, Norma is a sympathetic character.
Absolutely.
She does emerge as a very sympathetic character because it is the whole idea of Hollywood that destroys these people, right? It destroys Joe and it destroys Norma, and they destroy each other, in a sense. I mean, he doesn't destroy her, but you know what I'm saying. I mean, it's like there's no way out at a certain point. So anyway, okay.
All right.
I got really long-winded once I plugged the battery back in.
I was going to say, you popped back up. Okay, so this one is yours.
Okay, which noir star's life would you like to see made into a film? And which actress would you like to see play them? Says Joe in Rancho Palos Verdes. I'm almost hesitant to say that Joe suggests Mark Wahlberg as Robert Mitchum, but he does suggest that. And although I very much admire Mark Wahlberg as an actor and as just Mark Wahlberg, I mean, he's a guy who's made a tremendous career for himself from, underwear ads and, all that stuff. He's a pretty shrewd character. I don't see him as Robert Mitchum. But anyway, what do you think, Ann? Which noir star's life would you like to see made into a film? Bearing in mind that Gloria Graham's life has been made into a film.
Yeah, I mean, I have two. Sorry, my new earpiece. I'm getting used to it. I kind of would like Joan Crawford because I don't think people know how bad her childhood was and what she came from and what she was able to do with her life, which is really remarkable. I mean, she was like poor and downtrodden, and I think a lot of people don't realize that. So I'd almost like to see something done with her, but I have zero confidence that it would be done faithfully or well, and it wouldn't just be the same shit it always is with her. So
exactly. It's so funny that you say that, Anne, because when you said Joan Crawford, my immediate reaction was, yeah, wouldn't that be great? And then I immediately thought of how it would be done. And I said, but they'll go insane with the makeup, in Act 3, and they'll turn it into a horror movie in the end. And while there are, tragic, horrific aspects, we've had this conversation earlier, like that's not the whole story. What's interesting is, you said there were two.
So my other one is Gene Tierney. In the wild hope that I would get to see a movie that treated mental illness in a realistic and sympathetic way, which once again, I may be whistling Dixie on that, but if they really used her autobiography and really showed how her mental health issues affected her and what ultimately happened, and of course the stuff with her daughter, which is so
tragic,
and she just had like in the way that she was able to come back from these things, you know. And you know, I mean, Otto Preminger was kind of a dick, but he did insist on putting her in that film.
He was good to her.
Yeah, and this, you know, and that got her, you know, employable again. So, but I don't know who would play her. I mean, that's the thing with Gene Tierney, is you'd have to have someone who's just, you know, that incredible actress to play all those things, but also she was so beautiful. It's really
so beautiful. Like who looks like that, you know? Yeah. Those are really good. The Gene Tierney one would be great, because I know I'm not supposed to say this because I'm the noir guy, but that would be great because it has a good ending.
Yeah.
You know, the Gene Tierney story, with all of the tragedy and the suicide attempts and the you know, the shock therapy and everything, it does end well, you know, so that's nice. Interestingly, I thought of someone, and this was very topical, we've discussed her. I would like to see a movie about Joan Harrison. Not a star, you know. And you know, Ida Lupino is another one.
Yeah,
who's fascinating. But honestly, that's, looking at it as a writer, it's like you have to end that at a certain point where it doesn't just kind of peter out. You know, that's like the problem you have with the Joan Crawford story as a movie.
Yeah,
it's like nobody really wants the third act. You know, and with Ida Lupino, you know, she starts making shitty movies as an actress, and she doesn't really get good projects to direct, and she becomes a total alcoholic. And it's like, Act 3 isn't very good, you know. But with Joan Harrison, it's all good. So much so that it's almost like this would never make a movie because she's too on top of it.
Yeah.
She's a woman in control. She does all this great stuff. You know, she's a successful producer. She produces one of the best television shows of all time. And then she gets married like at 50 to Eric Ambler and kind of lives happily ever after. Shitty movie, you know, but a great life, right? So it's, yeah. So maybe that shouldn't be a movie, but read Christina Lane's book if you haven't read it, because it, you know, she really is a great character, and it's so fascinating to see all of the stuff that she accomplished and just how interesting she was. So that's it. I mean, sometimes with these characters, it's like you got to be careful, because, you know, people have said to me, you should write a biography of Lawrence Tierney. And I say, it's the same thing over and over again. Chapter 5 is the same as chapter 10, and it's the same as chapter 15. You know, then he fights with this guy, and then he gets into a brawl, and then he fucks up all this, you know.
Yeah.
And it's like, and amazingly, it goes on and on and on until he's like in his 80s, right? And it's like, who wants to read that? You know, it's a good short story, and he's a great character. But I you know, a feature film or a biography, I don't know. Okay. Last one.
Yes. This is from Alan. If you could have been on the set of any film noir for the entire duration of the shoot, which film would you choose?
Well, I'm gonna have several answers to this, right? Number one, I'd say number one would have to be Out of the Past, because it's just, there's too much greatness everywhere. So you'd get Mitchum, Jane Greer, Kirk Douglas. You get to see Jacques Tourneur in action. You get to see Nick Musaraka, all that stuff, and they're all over the place. So you get to travel, as well, and that would be pretty cool. I'd also like to have been on the set of In a Lonely Place just to see if it was as tense as I imagine it was.
Yeah.
With Nick Ray and Gloria Graham. So there's that as well. Okay, so I'll say those two to start with. What about you?
I think Scarlet Street. One, I would have to pick a film that Dan Jury was.
Of course, I saw that right off. Yeah, I saw that
that's
right
my
off.
primary motivation. But I think I would have liked to seen Joan Bennett's role in that, since she was, it was done through her production company, and that would be interesting to me. Like I'd like to see that aspect of it, of her, how that worked for her on the set, being an actress, but also being in the production side of things, and how did those interactions go?
Yeah, that's very interesting. I hadn't thought of that, but yes, because you hear stories about how Fritz Lang could be such a bastard on the set, but yet he's directing his co-producer in these scenes. That would be very interesting. And plus, Dan Duryea is sort of creating Dan Duryea.
Yeah,
At that time,
that established so much of what his
of his act. This is what was going to make him a big star. And Edward G. Robinson, of course, in a movie in which he plays an artist. Yeah, and his he was at that point the biggest art collector in Hollywood. Yeah. So that's a good one. I like that very much. And I'm sure there are others. I would think the Maltese Falcon would be pretty awesome.
Yeah, except I think with that one, I think it'd be a little sad.
Why sad?
I don't know. Just I mean, I don't know how well Peter Lorre was doing in terms of his drug use. And I think that would be very sad to see, because that was one that kind of popped in my head first, frankly. It was, the Maltese Falcon, this, and this, and then I started thinking, I think seeing that might be a little depressing.
Be a little sad, yeah. Yeah. But also, I mean, in some respects, it would be kind of awesome, because that was sort of the start. Yeah. That was Bogart creating the Bogart mystique. Yeah. That was Mary Astor at her best, and
Huston's first film directing.
His first film as a director, Sidney Greenstreet's debut as an actor. Yeah. To see these people, I wouldn't give to see them getting into the scene. Like how they prepare for it and how they say, I'm going to do this. And when I do this, you do that, and to see that legend created from scratch would be pretty amazing. That would be pretty awesome.
Plus Ward Bond.
Ward Bond, Barton McLean. Yes, Jerome Cowan. That would be
see John
fun.
Huston with his dad.
With his dad, and Elijah Cook. How do we leave out Elijah
Cook out?
Yeah. So that would be pretty great too, I have to say. All right, that was a fun question, to be on the set, because I'm gonna take out In a Lonely Place, because I don't really want to see that tension between Nick Ray and Gloria Graham. I kind of know it's there. That wouldn't, but man, to see the Maltese Falcon, that would be something. That would be something. Anyway, so we're good. We're wrapping up.
Yes.
We somehow always manage to do about 82 minutes. It's just like the length of a film noir, That was pretty good. So, I think the questions were really fun. That was good. And no stumpers this week. Last time we did this, we got stumped a bunch of times on movies that we hadn't seen.
It's
And I
very
feel kind of
embarrassing.
bad. It was embarrassing, and I felt kind of bad about that. So I was very pleased to not be so stumped this time. See, I love it when the question about the Afghan Wigs album, I was like, I don't know that album. But you asked me about Elvis Costello Armed Forces, it's like, I know it. I know every song on that, you know? And This Year's Model, and My Aim Is True, and, you know, everything else, you know? So yeah, that was good. I want to get Elvis Costello on TCM. That's one of my projects, you know.
That'd be so exciting.
I know. That would be a good thing, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. Okay, Anne, I'm glad you got your new earpiece.
Yes.
That's what I was dropping off today.
Yes.
And I'm glad that worked out. Charlotte, good to see your rump in the frame. Tizzy sends her regards to you, and we'll do this again soon, right?
Soon, yeah, next week.
All right.
But we probably, I mean, just let you know, it's only going to, I think, wind up being probably 2 episodes this month because of Thanksgiving. We're not going to stream on Thanksgiving for obvious reasons.
And yes, and you are traveling. You're going home for Thanksgiving, right?
Yes, I will be in Sugar Land, Texas with
for you.
With everybody. All 3 of my siblings will be there.
Good. And I can tell you that I'm very happy that your earpiece worked because the sound was really good this week.
I know, it's so much better.
It was
so much better when I have my earpiece.
Yes, that's a necessary thing. So
and
okay.
it will protect it from the cats.
Don't let Charlotte chew up the earpiece.
That was Emily, actually.
Oh, Emily, demon cat Emily. Of course, Charlotte would never do that. Okay, and until next time.
Till next time. And yeah.
I know I'm not going to use my TCM sign off because that's like exclusive to TCM.
Right, you can't do that.
I'm not going to do that. So, but as always, great talking to you, and we'll see you when we do this again.
Okay, we'll see y'all soon. Thanks.
Okay, thanks. Stay well.
Bye.